A non-Jewish doctor never touched any of my family's bodies, and my grandmother shopped at Mildred's Kosher Grocery on the corner of Newton Street and West Colfax Avenue, famous for its thick slabs of marbled vanilla chocolate halva. At the start of World War II, my grandmother's first husband, Harry, was dying of pancreatic cancer, and the letters she received from Esta Plat stopped arriving in 1942. The anxiety in my grandmother's house by the time I was born in the early 1950s felt like an ice fog, even in July. When I was young and came inside after picking red hollyhocks to make toothpick ballerinas with petal tutus, I thought her switch to Yiddish while conversing with her daughters was because she was discussing sex or us naughty grandchildren. In fact, she was trying to find the words to describe how to scale the wall of grief in front of her that reached to heaven, using just her fingernails. The little girl I was knew we were deep in something, because my family, like so many others, had fled the other European something to land in America. I eventually learned Adorno survived until he didn't, that life for some continued after Auschwitz, but at what cost? In spite of history, and also because of it, I was raised by parents who refused to be thought of as pitiful. My mother was a bookkeeper, and my father drove a taxi. They lived without thinking of themselves as victims. They did not hate life, or at least my father didn't. He had contributed to the war efforts in the U.S. Army Air Corps, and the energy of that experience, good and bad, propelled him forward, always, without regret, for the remainder of his life. His laugh sounded like a phlegmy chuff, and he liked to chuff at his own jokes. He loved to eat French pastry. He moved freely outside of the boundaries of Jewish West Denver and gambled with zeal until he lost all his money. My mother, though, who, as the youngest child and the family mazinka, the last daughter to marry and therefore the dutiful daughter who takes care of family members as they age, was the receptor of her mother's sorrow, grief, and guilt. For her, as for my grandmother, the past escalated until it surpassed the present. Masked, throttled, suppressed, it never disappeared. Worse became unbearable until my grandmother escaped into dementia. My mother could not find a way to escape. Brutal, volatile, and violent as my young mother, when old, she stopped taking care of her body and parked her butt in a wheelchair until her heart stopped working. I thought I could escape the death sentence of our past by living my life and raising a family in the rural Rocky Mountain West, where few Jews live. But I surrounded myself in a kibbutz of the mind, in spirit, and in fact, more comfortable with growing cucumbers than praying in a shul, eager to learn the secrets of cultivation denied my ancestors as stateless, landless Jews. Before my grandmother's family was exiled and resettled in Ratna, administered by Russia and Poland and Germany and Soviet Union and Ukraine, they most likely lived in Germany. They bore a sense of shame for having lived and worked and wallowed in muck close to what is now Belarus's border with Ukraine, on the edge of the Pripyat River's swamps. Instead of elegant, learned, and urbane ancestors from Odessa, Vilnius, Berlin, or Krakow, ancestors from the Stettlach in that part of the borderlands were associated with the ignorant dwellers of mythic Polish Helm, mocked for their pious stupidity and meager scrap-wood shanties, their odd inflected Yiddish that some said sounded like braying goats. The stink of onions scented their breath, the donkey and goat shit piled up in their streets. The superstitions of their rebbes and their subjugation stretched like lightning from the sky to the root of every...